Hi everyone, welcome to Emma, a true infidelity story. I'm excited to share a new story with you. It was a quiet night. A gentle glow was cast inside by the yellow light from the street lamps filtering through the window, and the wispy clouds covering the sky. My cute dog Luna, whose fur is exceptionally soft, was sleeping next to me in the bedroom. She was curled up against me, sleeping soundly just like she always did. I closed my eyes and inhaled deeply, starting to fall asleep. However, something was not working. I initially heard a sound, but it was quite distant. I heard a sound but was caught in the darkness, and then dissipated, rather than a distinct sound reverberating in my ears. When I noticed this, I opened my eyes and it took a moment, but this strange unease began to wrap around me. Something inside me was telling me that something was wrong. The atmosphere of the room changed drastically. Everything seemed to be stacked on top of one another in the bedroom. There were shadows in the corners of the ceiling, where I thought I could make out some movement. I did feel a little scared but tried to remain calm. It is just the wind, I told myself, taking a few deep breaths, and trying to convince myself to shut my eyes again. But Luna, she is nothing like that. I could spot my canine's body temperature, and more importantly, the way she breathed while she was sleeping next to me. Her serene breaths, along with the gentle rise and fall of her small belly, was beyond calming. But now it was disconcerting. I could not place my finger on it, but it definitely had changed. All of a sudden I felt the need to open my eyes, because there was a rustling sound. However, it was not only the wind, and Luna, my sweet cute dog, who had a habit of sleeping deeply while curled up in my arms, was also wide awake. But unlike before where she was sleeping, she was sitting up on the edge of the bed, having her head up, staring at some part of the dark corner of the room. Her eyes were so sharp, so terrifying that for a moment I even forgot to take a deep breath. I felt a shiver run through me. Something was going awry. There was something in Luna's eyes, as if she was looking at something from another world. Sometimes cute dogs would stare at you with strange looks, but this was different. It was so different that I felt a chill run down my spine. Slowly, I decided to get up quietly. I slowly rose from my spot and moved towards the dark corner of the room. "Luna, what are you doing?" I whispered, but I got no response from my cute dog. She just stood there, her head slightly tilted, still looking at something terrifyingly in the darkness. I took another step, moving a bit closer. It was as if there was something wrong, a strangeness. Maybe I was just overthinking it, telling myself that everything would return to normal. But the unease inside me kept growing. "Luna, come here," I called out, but my cute dog still didn't look at me. Her eyes were fixed on something in the room in the darkness. For a moment, I felt like I could understand something in those eyes, as if she was trying to tell me something. At that moment, something changed. I felt like everything was about to go awry. My cute dog's body, her fur seemed to harden, becoming tougher than it had ever been before. Suddenly it was as if all that soft, lovable demeanor was far away. A voice inside me said, "Tonight, everything will be different." I was scared, but still somehow I tried to stay calm. "Luna, what are you doing? You're scaring me," I said, but the cute dog didn't even flinch. I took a few more steps and leaned towards my cute dog. I looked into her eyes, but she was still there. Her gaze fixed on the same spot, focused on something. Suddenly, without any warning, Luna quickly turned her head and started moving towards me. I can't describe the expression in her eyes. Her gaze was trying to delve deep into my eyes as if there was something I didn't understand. I felt a great fear inside me, and as I tried to comprehend what was happening, my heart started racing. Seeing my cute dog approaching, I took a step back, but she continued to move towards me slowly, carefully. In a strange way, there was a silence that I couldn't quite grasp. Just those eyes, those terrifying eyes. It was as if she sensed something, but I didn't know what. Suddenly my cute dog stopped right in front of me. There was no sound, just those strange eyes. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of it all. I knew something was wrong, but what was it? I searched for an answer in her eyes. She was still looking at me with that terrifying gaze patiently. At that moment, everything felt chaotic. The safe atmosphere of the house had suddenly vanished. Everything had changed. Slowly I took a step back, and this time I noticed that she had moved even closer to me. Those strange eyes seemed to be focused on something, and now they were reflecting in my own eyes fear. But there was more. I felt something unexpectedly changing as the first light of dawn began to break on the horizon. The darkness of the night still lingered. My eyes, trying to force myself awake, were still filled with the echoes of that dark moment. But I wanted to believe that everything would pass that once morning came. Everything would return to normal. Luna's strange gazes, her odd behavior. Maybe it was all just a dream, right? Everything would change when I woke up, but when I woke up, nothing had changed. Suddenly, in that terrifying silence, I heard a low growl that sent shivers down my spine. Slowly I turned my head. Luna was standing in the corner of the room, her eyes still fixed on a point in the darkness. But this time there was something different in her gaze. It was as if something had become even more chaotic. She turned those strange eyes towards me and the growl grew louder. "Luna," I whispered. But however softly I spoke, my cute dog did not respond to my voice. She just kept her eyes locked on me. Inside me, I began to realize things were getting worse. I didn't know what to do. This situation would pass, right? It was just a temporary thing. Maybe it was just the dark thoughts from last night, my insomnia. Maybe all that was a trick of my mind. But Luna's growls and those terrifying eyes were growing more intense with each second passing. Suddenly, very strangely, she ran up to me. "Luna!" I yelled, my eyes wide with fear. At that moment my cute dog seemed utterly different from what she always had been. Her growl sounded like the snarl of a wild beast with every one of her steps. Darkness seemed to seep further into the room. A wave of fear started growing inside of me, and that fear was slowly choking me every second. The blurriness attacked my vision, and I could hardly speak. By then, very scared, I could just feel something I did not know what lay in. My cute dog stared at me, as if warning about something in her growl, in some sort of uneasy stance. But there was. Something was definitely different. "Luna, what are you doing?" I screamed. But this time my voice came out weaker, trembling. She continued to approach me, her eyes never leaving mine. I stepped back in fear. I was so scared that my heart felt like it was about to leap out of my C*********. My knees started to shake. Suddenly, Luna's gaze broke, and she turned her head away. A moment of silence, just a second. But in that silence I could feel that something had changed. It happened so suddenly that I almost fell backward in fear. "Luna, please, this is just a nightmare," I whispered, but I knew that things could never be normal again. My cute dog suddenly lunged at me with a swift movement. I stumbled backward, falling to the ground for a moment. I tried to focus on the spinning world around me, but the fear gripping my heart told me how real everything was. And then I started screaming. Firstly, it was just a scream. So another, then there was a series of screams. Voices came from every corner of the room. These screams were cried for deep pain that came from some "help me." I tried to shout, but my voice didn't come out. There was just a trembling whisper between my lips. The screams with each passage grew high. My mind ran and tried to understand Luna's weird behavior and scream. But they were so far away that a net of fear covered everything. When each passed the other, my feelings became even more awful. Suddenly my cute dog climbed me a cool wave of fear through all parts of my body. For a moment, everything was blurred when I realized that he had vigorously knocked me. Another scream. This time it was my own fear consumed me completely. At that time, everything was strange. Scream, fear. Luna grows. Everything was wedged together. But there was something, a feeling I can't describe it. It was just something, a place where I felt like I was going to swallow the whole. The heavy pressure of fear in my C******* stopped me from crying. My cute dog moved even closer. This time there was only that emptiness in her eyes. That emptiness was telling me something dark. And as I tried to understand it, everything became increasingly terrifying. And at that moment I felt like I was being pulled into the abyss. Dawn was approaching, but my world seemed to be spiraling into chaos. With each passing minute, I wanted to believe that everything would pass that once morning came. Everything would return to normal, but this was impossible. Luna's behavior was becoming increasingly strange and wild. Just a few hours ago she had been quiet. But now her eyes were seeing something entirely different. Those eyes, they seemed to be watching not me but something much deeper. His movements were replaced in a way that I had never seen before. One moment he looked normal, but this generally was quickly getting frightening. As soon as the first light of the morning broke, my cute dog started provoking through the house, knocked on everything in his way. He overturned a glass of water on the table, then threw the plates on the floor. The items crashed as if destroyed by any other force. Sudden outbreaks of Luna's anger were becoming more intense. With each passing moment she was creating so much uproar that it was echoing in my ears. And with each thing something was feeling bad. Those voices were not just the cry of the cute dog. They looked like an inauspicious calls of an animal. I slowly backed back, but I picked up with each step. Luna's gaze chased me. No matter how far I went away, he kept me scolded. My steps intensified. My heart was running so fast that I felt it could burst. My knees were shaking, and with each step, fear became even more heavy. But with every movement I did, he followed. She wanted something, but what she started contacting me like this. This behavior was definitely strange. She was no longer normal. A few seconds later, Luna lunged at me again, trying to knock me down. I held my breath, feeling like I was being suffocated. Each of her movements pushed me deeper into fear. She was attacking so ferociously that I felt a chill run through my body. What was happening? What kind of change was occurring? And was this change coming from something external, or was something awakening within her? At that moment, Luna suddenly stopped her eyes in a strange way, seemed to be focusing on the emotions within me. She tilted her head and took a step forward. But this was not an ordinary step. It was as if she was making a human-like movement. Yes, you heard right, a human-like movement. It was as if she was expecting something from me, and understanding the meaning in her eyes. It made me question the reality of everything. What do you want, Luna? I whispered, but she just kept her gaze fixed on me, waiting. My mind was racing. It was no longer just the dark corners of the house. Something dark was seeping into everything. With each of her movements, the fear inside me grew stronger. I didn't know what it was, but I knew that this was a sign of something beginning. Rarely had I seen something like that in Luna. Until now I had only thought of her as a good and loving cute dog, but now I was noticing something awakening in her eyes. Her eyes were somehow under the spell of a strange entity or some other force, imbuing all with meaning. Understanding what that meaning was might mean something terribly worse. My vision was blurring, and everything was turning into a cacophony. At that moment, Luna was clattering through the house like a tornado. She gave pursuit while wrecking the entire house, the rug, the cabinet, the chair. Everything seemed to have been thrown to the ground. It was almost as if her aim was to leave nothing standing. Slowly, with her eyes set, she stopped me. The change I now noticed in Luna's movement was mind-blowing. Sudden bipedal was the definition of dragging her hind legs. And now she walked upright. This creature, who had never attempted to walk upright, was now trying to tell me what she wanted, and the meaning in her eyes was empty, like the void of violated human souls. And that void was upon me. With a flow of increasing darkness, Luna's behaviors were becoming increasingly terrifying. With each passing second, at that moment I realized that this was not just a cute dog. It was also a curse, an entity or something. Now it was no longer normal in this world. She was a carrier of something, but what it was I couldn't figure out. As I tried to understand, everything inside me began to blur. My cute dog's strange behaviors weren't stopping. On the one hand, I had to try to understand this situation. With each passing moment facing, Luna's increasingly chaotic actions was pulling me into an inescapable situation. For years I had been her loyal companion, always caring for her with love. But now everything was different. What was happening? Why was she acting this way towards me? As each day passed, my fear grew a little more. Now sleeping on my bed at night found it almost impossible. Luna would enter my room every night, looking restless at me. Her eyes were like those of a human, deep, profound in meaning, and terribly frightening. Then those this baleful stares coiled around me. It was as if she were going to crush me with those eyes of hers. As if she were pulling me out of myself. My life used to be perfectly fine a week ago, but now something, perhaps a lot, was terribly wrong. Luna's behavior was weirdly off. There was no longer a trace of her loving nature. One night, while laying the books neatly in the house, I would later find an old note. It was written in an ancient script. Though I could read some words, several words appeared: curse, evil spirit, fear. I immediately began to do some research. The more I researched, however, the more difficult it became to solve the riddle of Luna's strange behavior. I spent the whole night untying the knot about everything. I grew aware of how deceiving simple and ordinary. Every one of these things appeared at face value. Suddenly Luna began to howl profusely. Apparently something was provoking her. But what? At one point I heard a faint murmur coming from every corner of the house, almost a whisper. The sound was painfully close to the ears. So what do I do now? All night I examined everything and repaid the old books. The books mentioned a cursed cute dog behind these strange eyes that were watching me. There was evil now. The violence and terrifying demeanor Luna showed towards me could not be just a coincidence. It was so clear that something had happened. And was this something a cursed spirit? Or was it an evil entity that had taken control of Luna? As the hours passed, the gleam in Luna's eyes grew stronger. At one moment it was as if she was talking to me. "Save me," she said. This was more than just words. It set shivers down my spine. There was a human gaze in her eyes whenever it was. I could imagine being human in those gazes. But now those gazes were pulling me in. A kind of terrifying spell was being cast. And at that moment I saw emptiness in her eyes. Now I was right in the middle of everything. Everything reflected in my cute dog's eyes had a meaning. Now I had to decipher that meaning. But it seemed like it was too late. I wanted to run to the room, read the books faster, and understand what was happening more quickly. However, despite my caution, Luna's behaviors were becoming chaotic. Yes, something was changing, but what was it? Was it just a cute dog, or was it an entity? Being alone in the house had become almost impossible. Luna's strange behaviors had made the nights unbearable. Suddenly I woke up to strange growls. In the early hours of the morning, when I opened my eyes, I saw Luna standing in front of me, making human-like sounds in a strange way. Everything was very different. Her eyes resembled those of a human, but these gazes were a sign of an impending threat. As fear gripped me, I became more and more tense. With each passing moment, Luna continued to approach me, becoming increasingly terrifying with each second. She slowly turned around and moved towards the other corner of the room. But no matter how far she moved, the fear in my heart continued to feel her presence. At that moment, the struggle for survival had begun. I no longer knew when this ghost, this entity that had appeared out of nowhere, would start chasing me. My cute dog cornered herself. I couldn't even think about what step to take next. She was so close that the reality of how terrifying this moment was hit me hard. Slowly I tried to approach her, attempting to decide what to do. But the emptiness in her eyes deepened with each gaze, becoming even more terrifying. Finally, I realized that Luna's strange behaviors were just the beginning. She was now moving like a human, watching me with the deep emptiness in her eyes. I had lost control of everything. I had to face this entity. One last time fear gripped me, but I had to fight to survive. Eventually I understood that all this fear had a meaning. But at that very moment a shocking truth was revealed that would stun the observer. I finally learned what the curse was, and what this horror wanted from me. If this story resonated with you, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps us craft more engaging stories for you.